には一つ青い空広い茶人渦巻く街にピンクの頬の5人の戦士抜かせ緑の明日の風を GO! 5つの力を一つに合わせて叫べ勝利のお叫びを秘密戦隊ゴレンジャー
Hello everyone, and welcome to the MMO. Tokusatsu Tiger here. I'm insane and you soon will be. Ladies, gentlemen, and others, welcome, at long last, as promised, to my review of the original Episode 1 of Himitsu Sentai Goranger from Japan. Now, before we get into any of the details, I want to go ahead and say in advance that the footage for Goranger that I managed to find, which was the only footage I could manage to find that wasn't on a torrent, and I don't want to have to pay for torrents and download all that crap. The reason that I'm going to say this is because, well, I feel you should be notified ahead of time. The footage of Goranger has subtitles hard-coded into it, so I can't edit them out. And trying to edit them out would simply just, well, I couldn't do it, not without ruining the footage. Now, I will go ahead and admit that I will be putting in my own little subtitles throughout the thing. They will be in orange. The subtitles that were there originally, I believe, are all in yellow. So that'll help you distinguish between the two. Now, once again, I apologize for the subtitles being there, but I did not put them there, and I can't remove them without ruining the footage completely. So, once again, I apologize. I hope this doesn't take away from the rest of the review. With all that said, I'm going to go ahead and give you a little background information. Anyway, Goranger is the very first episode of a now 35-year-plus franchise which has been on the air in Japan continuously for every year since its debut in 1975. And its popularity was to the point that it spawned the Power Rangers over here in America in the early 90s. That's how I was introduced to all of this. I start searching for information on my much beloved Power Rangers, and then all of a sudden I find this little link to info about the Super Sentai. Let's just say my brain went into overdrive trying to figure out all this stuff, and trying to find all this information that I had now come upon. And the sheer volume and breadth and scope had simply amazed me. Needless to say, I still haven't been able to see every single series of Super Sentai in their entirety because, unfortunately, the DVDs are not sold in the United States, and some info is that the earliest series aren't even collected in box sets of DVDs or in any DVD form, which is just bullcrap in my opinion. I know that they are old, but Star Trek is even older than that, and it still has numerous box sets, including remastered cuts, recut formats, and the like. But I digress. The important thing here is to remember to just have fun and to enjoy these series as they are. Sort of like opening up a vintage wine. The packaging might be old and unappealing, but once you sit down and take the time to enjoy it, I'm sure there is something that everyone can enjoy about this. Or any other Tokusatsu series. With all of that said and done and out of the way, let's go ahead and take a little trip back in the Tokusatsu Tardis all the way back to April 5th, 1975 in Japan. The airing of the very first Super Sentai episode of Himitsu Sentai Goranger. We open the episode with a scene of the soon-to-be Aqua Ranger, Tsuyoshi Kaijo, played by Naoya Makoto, playing soccer with his friends on a military base. Said military base is known as Eagle, sort of like a Japanese version of S.H.I.E.L.D. in Marvel Comics. Speaking of Marvel Comics, Toei and Marvel would have a co-op later on down the road. More on with that in time. Anyway, as Tsuyoshi and the others see their soccer ball suddenly have a knife thrown into it, the enemies of the Goranger, heretofore known as the Black Crusaders, begin to completely run roughshod over the base, being led by this episode's enemy, Gold Mask. Somehow, Tsuyoshi manages to survive the attack, the only person in the base to survive the attack. Amazingly, 4 similar attacks led by 4 other commanders of the Black Crusaders are led at other bases around Japan. At each base, the other 4 members of the Goranger are all that survive, It's hinted that though this is only due to chance and not due to powers, how the Goranger actually gained their powers is left out in this episode. This was actually sort of par for the course in 1975 with most series both in Japan, the United States, and many other places besides. Little exposition, slow build-up, a lot of major action in the first and last few minutes of each episode, with very little happening in between as far as action goes. Nearly every tokusatsu of the time worked the exact same way, and many other shows of the time worked similarly as well. Look at Doctor Who, for instance. Very slow build-up during the middle of the episode, but during the beginning and end, generally some level of action that was much more than what was happening in the middle combined. Anyway, this also caused many of the shows to use very similar and unusually similar plot devices at that. There are exceptions to this, of course, but I digress. After we are shown the other attacks on the other Eagle bases around Japan, we go back to the Black Crusaders' base, where we see that they have gathered up and are preparing and plotting to, you guessed it, take over the world.
Of course!
What's notable here is how the cameraman wants to make us all seasick by spinning in a circle as the Crusaders' uniforms look like more like demented versions of Disney costumes. And to my immense shock and amazement, the leader of the Black Crusaders looks like a member of the KKK, white hood and all. I am so not even kidding. Which brings the question to mind, why would a KKK member be working in Japan? Usually the KKK are all about white supremacy and are based in the United States. They just suddenly got a lot more socially offensive. Okay. I should point out that this was Japan in 1975. The AKK and other such iconography from other cultures didn't then, and probably still doesn't now, have the same connotations that they do in the countries in which the iconography originate from. After all, many Japanese manga have Christian symbols such as crosses, crucifixes, and even images of Western-style churches, and many of them are used as symbols rather than having the kind of reverence that they do in many of the cultures that they originate from. Not to say that the Japanese are trying to be offensive, rather that they see the foreign imagery as exotic and very much enjoy, much like Japanese iconography is in the United States.